You were cute at 9.
Yeah, I've been pretty cute for a long time.
Yeah.
Hi. So we're back.
Oh my God. Are we? We're here.
We're back, and it's been a journey.
It's been a whole lifetime.
It's been a journey.
Like it's been a whole lifetime.
We've been gone for a long time.
From the podcast.
From the podcast.
Not from existing.
We were existing, but that again is sort of the matter at hand. Is there was a period of time where we weren't sure if everything was going to keep existing for me. If I was going to keep existing.
You're always going to keep existing.
I was going to keep existing, but we weren't sure exactly in what state of existence I was going to be existing in.
I think it was way worse in your head.
Maybe. So
you were the one experiencing it.
So we have much to discuss.
Much to discuss.
So if you look, you may notice that I am about 30 pounds less than I was than the last time you saw me. I'm a little guy right now, and it's because I got a little sick and had to get a little operation. And so
it's been so fun.
It's been a very interesting.
It's been hilarious.
6 months.
And really playful.
Let me just tell you, we'll take you through this, but the end was nigh. I thought the end was nigh.
Wait, doesn't nigh mean not?
Near.
Oh, near.
I thought the end was near.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, you tend to be dramatic anyway, so yeah.
Well,
You're a little.
There's my Jewish dramaticness mixed in with the fact that I thought I was going to die.
Okay.
And there was also mixed in with the fact that there was some real shit happening.
Mixed in with, if I even talk about replacing the living room couch and having a temporary smaller couch for 2 months, he says that's going to be a blow to the family.
Well,
so in terms of like, let's evaluate the level of drama.
Let's put it.
You tend to lean towards the drama, but continue.
We'll get to that at another point.
I just had to put it into context for the
you.
listeners and viewers.
We should put the whole thing in context for the listeners and viewers, which is this. So I got sick, and I'll take you through it. So here's what occurred.
You're okay now. Let's just start the story.
First
which
off,
is fine.
I'm fantastic, but it was a big thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a big thing, but it was a big thing.
Yeah.
I didn't get a sick. Okay, well, I'll take you through it.
Okay.
So it started with.
I can't wait to hear all about it again.
Okay. It must suck for you because you've had to hear it nonstop for 6 months.
Oh yeah, no, like all day long.
Of course.
Oh, okay, go on. But this is the first they're hearing of it, so
right.
Enjoy, everybody.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to I'm bored with talking about it.
I'm gonna sit here and just hydrate while you walk everyone
No, I
through.
want your contributions. Otherwise, I don't have a lot. I'm 30 pounds underweight. I'm malnourished. I don't have a lot of energy. First off.
Go on.
Well.
That doesn't keep you from complaining. It just keeps you from
or from fucking
doing the fun things.
I find I'll even fuck even when I'm almost close to death. Okay, so here's the thing. It started a while back. I would get some pretty.
We don't need to hear all the nuances of your
They still don't know what's going on. Okay,
don't walk them through all the whoa, and then I would sometimes feel this, but at 3 p.m. I'd feel that. No one cares.
I won't do that. Okay. Bottom line is I was having excruciating intestinal pains, like in the intestines, right? The tummy. And we didn't know what was going on. So I was getting tests and we were trying to figure out what was happening.
And the parade of doctor appointments, that's fun.
It was a fucking nightmare because you meet all these fucking doctors who are nice, but they take
doctors, but that was...
They take a lot of money and they take a lot of tests and they poke you with a lot of needles and they take tests. And we ruled out all the horrible things that it could be, blah, 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 all those words that you all know about.
Very lucky.
None of that shit was happening.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get to the bottom of why I couldn't eat and why I was having horrible pains when I would eat or digest food or anything like that. Okay. So some of the things that happened was they had to do a bunch of tests to get to the bottom of it. And I'm not going to take you through what it turned out to be just yet. I want you to go through the journey with me for just a minute on the nightmare that I had.
They're fast forwarding just to find out what the hell it was.
I think they want to. I think
test. Blood draw.
Colonoscopy.
Pain.
Finger in butt.
Annoyed wife. Chicken noodle soup.
Chicken noodle soup. That's pretty cute.
A lot of matzo
There's a
ball soup.
lot of matzo ball soups in
But
the last
please,
6 months.
continue.
Well,
Sorry.
so during the journey, there was a bunch of tests that had to be done. Some of the tests were what's called a colonoscopy.
I think the only hole they did not poke was like your ear.
Yeah, that's the only hole that didn't have something in it.
Yeah.
So a colonoscopy had to get done, a couple of them in fact, where they were trying to figure out what the fuck was happening and why I was having colon and intestinal pains and what was happening. And that's a fucking, first of all, has anyone had a colonoscopy? Do you know what a colonoscopy is? That's where they go in your butthole with a camera and they look in your butthole with a camera. And the thing is to get inside your butthole with a camera, they don't just like, hey, let's put a camera in your butt in an hour. They gotta take you through 3 days of hell to get a camera in your butt because they gotta empty you out completely, right? So I won't get into too many, this is so unpleasant for you, but I'm not gonna get into too many
I've
details.
already lived it
You've
a few
lived it.
times
Okay.
with you.
It was a fucking nightmare. So
And it's just like, I'm locking myself in the bedroom starting at 5 p.m. and I'm gonna be miserable. So you got the kids, right? Okay. I'm just gonna be going to the bathroom, and he was, but it's just like, oh God,
they give you stuff to drink to empty you out. But it doesn't
It's like a violin emptying.
But
out,
it doesn't
huh?
empty you out in a little way. It's like, ouch. It empties you out in a way that's made for surgical procedures to be done in a clean environment. So when they empty you out, the stuff they give you, it takes your intestines and bowels and everything, and it basically it dry hose. It's like
You have a mic on, by the way. You're not trying to make it where the camera can hear you all the way over there. So just.
Why would you do this to me in my moment? In my moment of time. Okay, so I got emptied out. And here was a mistake I made. I'm going to tell you a mistake I made that I didn't talk to you about, which was this.
That's the one thing you didn't talk to me
This one I didn't know how to go about telling you.
about. Oh, good. Okay.
Maybe I did. When I knew the night before that the next day I was going to go into a room full of people putting things in my asshole, I thought, well, I better make sure I have a good-looking asshole. And I have a pretty good-looking asshole anyway.
Did you trim?
So I got my hair trimmers, and I thought I would do a little trim of the.
Did you use my mirror
And
that I used to put my makeup on and hold it by your butthole and trim your butt hairs onto my mirror?
so,
And who cleaned it afterwards? And what did you see? Did you use the magnifying end?
but here's the worst part of it. I nicked myself. And I drew blood. So I felt the nick. I was like, I had the whole thing apparatus with the mirror and the trimmer. I wanted a nice little asshole for the procedure. And I nicked myself because it's an electric thing and it just nicks. And it nicked. And it drew blood and it hurt like hell.
And then you had to run to the bathroom for the next diarrhea explosion. With your nicked a-hole.
No, that was all done.
Oh.
It was the morning of. Like I was clean as a whistle now. Like there was nothing going in or out of me. I was as pure as a little angel. Nothing in my body. There was nothing in my body. And I wanted to prepare the feast. I wanted to prepare the table for the feast. I wanted to, some people say you set a nice table. I wanted to set a nice table for the doctors. I wanted a good looking asshole.
I'm sure he appreciated that.
Well, what he got and what the nurses got and what I realized there's like 10 other people in the room got was a very nice looking asshole.
With a scab?
With a very bad scab.
So then it just looked like you cut yourself or other things were happening near your asshole, which
just-
tells a whole other narrative that doesn't exist.
It worked against me. I'm sure they had a big laugh while I was unconscious. Because, when you get a colonoscopy, they put you under. And they give you the anesthetic and they go under and then they basically go like, what's wrong with his asshole? Why is there a gash on his ass? So who knows? Who
You
knows?
know my favorite part of the colonoscopy?
What?
Not mine, I've never had one, but yours.
Right.
Or any time you've gone into surgery,
Yeah.
including the surgery you just had, but
We'll
we're
get to
on
that.
the colonoscopy
We're on the
right now,
colonoscopy part.
is you waking up from anesthesia, thinking you're totally lucid.
Every time.
and
I think
you
I'm-
do this thing where you have, and I actually understand it because it's almost like a self check-in with yourself that you're
Preservation of
okay
self.
after being unconscious. So you do this thing where you like talk a lot and get extra analytical with like
I do.
detail oriented.
Totally.
But then you don't remember a fucking thing we talked about. But you're super like, okay, doctor. So, but you're like a little like not control of your tongue, but trying to talk about as if you're in a courtroom and you're a lawyer going over.
Trying to
the
prove that I'm like an eloquent lawyer. You nailed it. And see, the thing is, I don't do any recreational drugs in life. The only drugs I would do is things that are needed for medicine or medical drugs, and then I drink caffeine, green tea. I'm like a very lightly drugged person, meaning that I don't do shit.
You're lightweight.
I'm a lightweight.
And you're clean.
And I'm clean. So I have like a pride in that I'm a pretty alert, aware dude. When I get the anesthetics, anesthesists, I'm still under a lot of anesthetics right now. I come out of it trying to prove that I'm still together. And then I try to talk myself into it, but I'm like, so anyway, so I got the colonoscopy.
Hypotheses.
And it was, once again, on the journey of figuring out what the fuck was happening. They couldn't determine it at all, and they determined nothing on it, or very little out of it, other than they got a few, okay, so.
Here's the annoying thing with, if you have a broken bone, or you got an infection, or you got a baby, or like, there's certain things in medicine, like, you have a heart attack, they know the thing's blocked, and things that you can really see,
right.
And like, awesome. Thank God for these doctors and hospitals and nurses and
incredible
angels. But when you're in the kind of
intestine area,
this is what you get a lot of. Well, but yet he was miserable. Like he was like quality of life was on like a quick descent.
I couldn't eat for months and months.
My quality of life was on a quick descent because being in the house with him was super unenjoyable to that degree. So going with him to all the doctor appointments and them going,
it was a fucking nightmare.
It was torture.
They take a lot of money and they're like, we don't really know.
It could be, but and you're just like, can you see anything?
Great doctors.
What's wrong?
But when you're dealing with the area of the intestines and the colons and the stomach and the digestion, you wouldn't believe how many fucking choices it could be.
Yeah.
As opposed to like cancer, which it of course wasn't, or the heart disease, which thank God it wasn't any of those. So like there was the thank God category that it wasn't any of those things, but then there was like, well then what the fuck is it? And why can't I eat? Why does it hurt when I eat? And why can't I digest food? And I don't want to live on broth for the rest of my life. So I was like losing weight, malnourished, and miserable. Okay, so the colonoscopy was one. Then there was something called a cystoscopy. Do you want to know what a fucking cystoscopy is? Many of you know it, many of you don't.
Many of you don't want to know. Many of you have stopped listening to the podcast already.
It is a fucking camera in your urethra. And I found out I had to get one, and my mood plummeted. I was like, oh, I don't want a fucking camera in my urethra. The thought of it gave me...
Stick a camera up your penis hole.
Urethra, the penis hole, through the penis hole. It was a fucking
It's
living
just
nightmare.
karma for like, I feel like every man should get a fucking camera up their penis hole every now and again. It's fucking karmic payback for the hell. The little moments of hell you've done throughout your life. It's a little karmic payback, but carry on.
Boy, did I get a karmic payback. You go in, you lay on a table, you strip down, and the intern, which is not a doctor, he's just an intern, he does the prep. So he puts like a tablecloth across your whole abdomen and penile region with like a collar hole, so it's like a tablecloth that your weenie comes out of.
My God.
Right? And so you're laying there it's like a chicken on a rotisserie. You're laying there and you've just got nothing but like a little, okay.
Wow.
So you lay down. We had to edit something out. You lay down on the table, and you've got a tablecloth across your private area, and your dingus is sticking out.
Through a hole?
Through a hole in there. There's like a little hole, and your dingus sticks out.
They should make it like red velvet.
And, well,
And then cut a hole and like have your penis come through like
They
this
should
red
make-
velvet, like it's jewelry.
You're right. They
Like
should
in
make
a
it prettier.
display case.
They should make it
Like
more
sterile
presentational.
velvet.
But I was very nervous, so it was just a tiny, fearful little pink stub. It was just a little tiny pink stub.
He was running for cover. He
Yeah,
was trying to go like
he was
back.
terrified. He wanted to be gone. And then they shoot anesthetic into the hole
Ooh, wow.
to make anesthetic, and it's horrendous. They keep shooting a red dye anesthetic in the hole. Then once it's anesthetized,
Anesthetized.
they put a camera in there, and he has a monitor. Now, the doctor was like, "We want to look in the camera?" I was holding my arm over my face in the most uncomfortable pain you can imagine, even with the anesthetic. I wanted to be out of my body. And he was like, "It's very interesting. You can see, blah, blah, blah." Okay, so he's like, okay. And here's what he did. Every time he had to move the camera, he would say, "Little tickle." That's what his wording was. Because he does 10 of these a day, right?
No.
Every time he said "little tickle," it was the
No.
kind of pain where you wanna disappear from the world of existence entirely. So he would move the camera to look around the bladder, and he would say "little tickle," and he'd be like, "Oh," even with the anesthetic, the sensation of a little camera through my urethra,
that's
like a
awful.
tube, into the bladder, turning around, it was death.
And then they found nothing.
Okay.
Okay.
Camera comes out. I don't know how much. Okay, so let's get to it. Here's what happened. Tests and tests and tests and tests and tests.
And CAT scans.
And CAT scans and urethra scans and colonoscopies and nicking my asshole and
An annoyed wife.
an annoyed wife and losing weight and malnourishment and not knowing what the fuck was going on. I finally said, "I'm done meeting with doctors. I'm going to meet with surgeons, a surgeon." And I went to a surgeon and I showed him all the tests and everything we'd been through. And the surgeon said, "Oh yeah, I know what this is. When you get an infected colon called diverticulitis," that's what this was.
Not just one diverticulitis. It's a little sac that sticks out and part in your intestines and then stuff can get
The
infected.
pouches of your intestine.
But when you have like when people get a bout of diverticulitis, they kind of like stop what they're eating, change their diet, whatever. But when you have multiple bouts of diverticulitis, which is what he has had over the last 10 months, it builds up scar tissue like every time you have it, and then it starts creating a blockade and problems.
You have a
in the
colon
area.
that's just scarred that nothing goes through. So,
Or has great difficulty going through.
Or
and
excruciating
creates
pain.
A lot of uncomfortable.
so you can't eat, you get malnourished, you find yourself just wanting to have broth all day long. So that, the doctor was like, "Oh yeah,
You're the perfect candidate for this. It's just we got to take it out.
we got to take what out? The colon. We take a foot of your colon out." And I'm sitting there with Jenna, and we're like, "Okay, and you've done this before?" And he's like, "Almost 1,000 times."
She's awesome.
No, hang on, we're the first surgeon.
Oh, the first surgeon.
And he's like, "Almost 1,000 times." And Jenna and we're like, "Holy shit, you've done almost 1,000 of these?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's a big surgery, but it's very common. It's going to make your life better. We're going to take out your colon and staple
the
it back
whole
together.
colon.
A foot of your colon and staple it back together."
sigmoid
Okay,
colon.
so we make an appointment for 2 weeks to do that. And I'm like, "God, that's a big surgery, but fuck, okay, anything. At least we have a solution now." We then go, "We should probably meet with a second opinion, right? Just to make sure." So we ask all the 45 doctors that I'd been seeing over the last many months, "Who's the top surgeons you know?" And each one gives me a list. Then there's one doctor that's on the list of all of them, and we meet with her. And she's
ace.
here's the best thing. She's a Jenna fan, a fan of Jenna's.
She was?
And I get
didn't even know that.
the A treatment. I walk in and right away we get into that special room, and she comes in and she looks over my tests and she says, word for word, without knowing what the other surgeon said, the exact same thing. And she gives the same thing, and we're like, "Okay, how many of these have you done?" And she says,
Thousands? I can't even count.
"Thousands and thousands, I've lost count." And I'm like,
And then she says, "We're going to try to do it, is it there's like arthroscopic, I don't even know laparoscopic, I don't
With
fucking
cameras.
know what it means. But anyway, the little incisions with cameras. But if we have to actually make a wider incision because we can't accomplish it that way, I've got little hands," she says, which is very cute. But she's badass, and she's a chick, and she knew exactly. She was
Fucking-
so certain and so
Fucking
awesome.
legend.
And I really loved her. And she left the room, and Bodhi looked over at me. I was like, "Yep, it's her. Let's do it.
And
she's the one." Let's
Scheduled
go."
it for 2 days later.
Yeah.
Okay. Long story short, I had to go into a major operation, and they had to take out a foot of my fucking colon and staple it back together again. And they go in through 5 incision points. Like, there's like 5 locations.
You were like a robot.
Because they
for a
put in
moment.
robot arms, air, cameras, lights. Like, they have like a hole that they put just for, okay. It was a fucking project. It's a big surgery. I did it, and I came out of the surgery, and there was
I did a little shopping while you were in surgery.
and it's a
I
long.
stayed nearby until they got into it, and then I was like,
Oh, they got to work out to a science. They have like a paging system now where they're like, you get paged like your husband's in surgery.
it was great. They were
You're-
great. It was
you're-
great.
There was one thing that happened where it was fucking intense. Okay, I just want to talk about this for a second. I won't get into too many details because it'll annoy you, but I'll say a couple things. I was very adamant about what type of drugs to use in the anesthetic because I wanted certain kinds of drugs, and I researched it a little bit because there's a lot of drugs that I don't agree with that I think are bad for the body that they don't need. Okay, and I met with the anesthesiologist first, and they were like, "Good, we don't use those." And when you're in there getting prepped, they're like, "We want to give you this other drug before you go into the surgery room." And I was like, "What's that for?" And they were like, "It's an anti-anxiety drug." And I was like, "I don't need an anti-anxiety drug." And they're like, "Well, you want an anti-anxiety drug before you go in to the room, before you get on the actual anesthetic drug." I was like, "No, I don't want that." And they were like, "You sure?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, I'm nervous, but to be expected. And they were like, "Okay." So I talked them out of that, and they really wanted to give it to me. And so you get wheeled into the surgery room, right? And you get in there, and it's like this, it's the actual surgery room. It's kind of bizarre. There's like 10 people in there, and there's tools and cameras and equipment. It's intense, right? And then you're on your hospital bed, and you have to get onto the surgery bed, which is like a steel slab. It looks like a cadaver bed. And I'm laying on my hospital bed, and they're like, "All right, you have to get on the surgery bed now." And I was like, "Oh, I get now why certain people would want to be a little loopy right now, because now you're about to get cut open, and you're late, and you need, normally they'd lift you onto the surgery bed if they gave you anti-anxiety, because you'd be like, oh, everything's fine. No, I had to like climb off my hospital bed and then lay on the surgery bed, the steel slab, that has all the like padding to catch the blood. Like, it's like, oh, okay, I got why certain people would want to be like, but I was very focused. And all I remember was you get hooked up to all the drugs, and they say, this is going to sting a little bit, because I guess the whatever it was, right? Propofol or whatever the drug was that knocks you unconscious. I guess it stings as it goes through your body. I'm sitting there, I'm laying down, everything plugs in, and they went, this is going to sting a bit. And all of a sudden, my body went into fire, just fire, and I went, ow, fuck, and then I went unconscious. So,
I want to just say something.
yeah, we got...
So then on the whole recovery thing is him talking about the scar. And how, so he has like a scar that's the same as my C-section scar. Exact same. But he also has some other incisions. But anyway.
Yeah.
Guys are fucking pussies.
Ooh, nailed it. You nailed it.
Because your whole thing about, oh, the surgery room and it's sterile and there's all these people and instruments. Okay. And then it's like, that's what it was like for me twice, bringing our children into the world.
True.
And you're a vulnerable mother that's about to be cut open, like the muscles, like the flesh, the tissue, the muscles, the abdominal wall, then the intestines taken out, moved out of the way, the uterus taken out of your body, cut open, baby pulled out, and then shove it all back in. And you're bringing life into the world. And like, before you guys came in on the C-section, I'm like just sitting there in a freezing cold, brightly lit, naked with this like baby I'm about to meet.
Yeah.
And they're injecting you and gonna paralyze you from the fucking like tits down. And
listen,
anyway,
I want to cry for you.
And he never,
I have such empathy.
Ever. And after the surgery, you were like, it's Dilaudid and all these like narcotics. And
of my surgery.
yeah, and like pain. You're like in all this pain. And for like 4 days we're in the hospital till we go home, and it's, pain for like a long time he had. And I was like, yeah, that's how it was with me, but I was on no narcotics.
Yeah, you're
And he
incredible.
looked over at me, you were like, what the fuck?
So we had like the
So
same
I had like
surgery.
a later,
Yeah.
because when it was happening, you had, none of that was on your radar.
I'd never had any surgery other than like a toe surgery, right? So I have to say, my respect for you, for now that I know what you went through on your
been
fucking
12 years.
surgery, is out of control. Like, I now realize.
And hormones, and feeding a baby, keeping this thing alive.
It's insane.
No sleep,
It's
no
insane.
narcotics.
You're it's amazing what you went through. It's amazing. I walked into the room, well, I didn't walk in the room, I was there the whole time for both of our kids, but there's a point where she's laying down, there's a curtain so she can't look and see the surgery.
I can't see my guts on my chest.
And I looked over and Jenna's smiling, and on the other side of the curtain, all her intestines had been taken out and laid on the side. And the doctors are taking the baby out. I'm standing over her, looking between smiling Jenna with tears in her eyes of joy and battle wound, like Civil War battle wound.
And then like an infant emerging from the chaos.
And I'm also emotional because of seeing that of what looks like your wife in a Civil War battle wound, and then your child, and I'm bonking in and out of my body of joy and anguish. Okay, so, and I have to talk about something here because I think I want to give everybody a little. Okay, we won't get too serious about it, but I have to say. So, as you guys know, I've said in the podcast, I don't do a lot of recreational drugs. I don't do any recreational drugs, and we know that there's been a massive opioid epidemic in our country.
Yeah.
So after the surgery, they had me on 2 opioids. One is a kind of a gnarly one called Dilaudid, and one is
I loved Dilaudid when I had my appendix removed.
Okay.
It was the only thing that worked.
So here's the thing that happened with me. So I'm recovering from the surgery. By the way, as you know, it's a massive success, and I'm eating again, and I'm 30 pounds underweight, but I'm out of the surgery.
Meanwhile, I can't drop a pound, but go on.
I'm out of the surgery, and I'm on Dilaudid. And after about a day or so, you can't really move very much after the surgery, and you can just like barely function. And I wanted to get off that Dilaudid as fast as I could. Like I was like, how fast can I get off this? And they were like, you want to be on it for a week and a half, 2 weeks or whatever because of the pain. And after 2 days, I had these things where I would be like, hey, who's that guy right there? Oh, there's no guy right there. That's totally a hallucination. Okay. Oh, look, a bird flew. No, a bird didn't fly in the hospital room. That couldn't be. That's hallucination. And then I went to Jen. I was like, Dilaudid, done. Cut it off. So I cut off the Dilaudid after 2 fucking days and had to deal with a lot of pain because I was like.
No, and then you went to Tramadol.
I was on Tramadol anyway.
Yeah.
And I had to but Tramadol doesn't do shit with fucking incision pains. Okay, so long story short, I am wearing the same size pants that I wore when I was about 15. I'm as skinny as a little motherfucker, but I'm putting the weight back on, and I am better. Mm-hmm. And my mood is gradually getting a little bit better because I'm getting nourishment again, but I'm still.
My mood's not any better.
But I kind of put the family in a funk for a little bit.
Well, it's like. It's been some months of oy vey, I don't feel good, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah,
Jen, I thought I was
blah.
going to die. There was a couple times where I was like, I didn't know what was happening.
But here's the thing, you're a little bit the boy who cried wolf. And I couldn't really bring it up to you at the time because you're in it and you're going through something, which I was trying to be sympathetic to. But I also know that you're an woe is me guy. Like the end is near if you like cut a finger. So the problem is...
Open up my stitches, don't make me laugh.
All these doctor appointments, you're like, what is it? I had a thing and a thing and a thing. And it was so dramatic. And I would keep... sometimes I'd have to like interpret to the doctor like what was actually going on because they didn't want to hear it either. They were just like, oh my God. Like, what is actually happening? Because you're like, oh... And
she puts on a Jewish cadence, so she's like, oh,
no, because it was because you were like weak and so it was like it's a lot of months of that. Yeah,
that's awful.
So it starts to become.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I was like, you know what? I need to be a saint to continue the benevolence because I'm kind of over it.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it too.
I was over it.
Can we have the rest of the next 55 years together of me being in better health than the last 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And not complain.
Here's to good health. Cheers. You know what I realized when you're laying down with 5 incision points in your abdomen and you can't laugh or sneeze or even lift up to grab a phone or water because it's excruciating pain, you find out how funny your wife is because every time she makes you laugh, you want to cry in pain. And I realized you're fucking funny. You're just a funny person because you had to like shut it down for a while because you're naturally a very funny little lady.
I feel like I annoy you way more than I make you laugh.
No, you had to.
Like, I feel like there's more eye rolls from you and like your sphincter getting very tight and your shoulders getting tense than there is of me making you laugh.
No, I fucking love you to pieces. Okay. There's only one thing I'll say. We'll end the podcast there with me finding a fault of yours, and then we'll end the podcast there.
Perfect.
How's
my hair?
Is that right. You're fucking phenomenal, but you're a little bit of a hypocrite in that you correct me on things that you just did 5 minutes before, and that makes me a little crazy.
Yeah.
So the eye rolls are me going, well, you're correcting me, and I'm like, oh my God, she just did the same thing. And
I can't believe that you're remembering it.
And I'm thinking,
I do that because you don't remember anything else. You don't remember anything. I have to say things so many times, but you remember that. That's impressive.
It's the Dilaudid.